must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.
Viewers, good morning Africa, wherever you are. We are looking at the rise from the ashes of the judiciary of the Republic of Kenya. For the last 2 years, since the nullification of elections of 2017, the judiciary of the Republic of Kenya has been on the headlines and in every newspaper worldwide, nationally, regionally, and Africa at large. The nullification of that election brought what we call a dual system of courage of justice.
That the presidential election held on 8th August 2017 was not conducted in accordance with the Constitution and the applicable law, rendering the declared results invalid, null, and void.
The justice that is demanded by civil society, international civil society, and the local civil societies, and the justice demanded by the interest of the nation. Given the two, which one do Kenyans want? Do they want the interest of the nation? In the interest of the nation, President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta decided to go back to campaign in order to show the world that he was able, and he is able, and he was the winner. The campaigns took place, an election was reconducted. For the second time, Uhuru emerged the winner of that election. From then, the judiciary has never been a judiciary for the people of Kenya. It has been a judiciary commanded, supported, equipped logistically by either local NGOs or international NGOs that tell them on what to do, not to do. And above all, the situation of judicial officers themselves being activists. We have seen a number of judges acting like activists on the streets, making decisions that are not in the interest of the judiciary and not in the interest of the country at large. The release of terrorists or alleged terrorists from courts using the law, and then the terrorists return to kill many Kenyans, is one of the factors that has caught our eye. In Africa School of Thought, we believe that Chief Justice Maraga and his entire team, or Chief Justice Maraga, the Deputy Chief Justice, Madam Mwiru, have not done a service for this country. They have misused the powers conferred upon them by the Constitution of the Republic of Kenya to either do politicking or accuse the executive of being political or being a witch hunter against the judiciary. Time and time again, President Uhuru Kenyatta has pumped in money in the judiciary to raise the standards of the employees of the judiciary, to give the judges freedom and welfare that they are able to conduct their affairs without interference. Is it time now for the Kenyans to say We have had enough of a bad judiciary. Is it time now for us to fight and for Africa to rise up? Because we see a lot of shrinkage of constitutionalism being done by the judges. If you look at what the judges in Malawi did, they did it in the morning, they reversed it in the afternoon, they ate it during dinner. Is this what Kenyans want? I leave it to you, Kenyans. Our hopes lie on the judicial service, the new judicial service system that has been put there. And hopefully, and only hopefully, that one day we shall rise from the ashes of corruption. Thank you.
With regard to corruption, we will continue to fight. Regardless of what will be said and done, we will fight. And we will fight, and we intend to fight and win. And it is unfortunate that sometimes this is politicized also. But as I said, this is a fight that Kenya must win. Because if we can't create not just a fair environment, but a stable environment, it must also then be transparent. So that once you do your business, you know what you need to do, how you're going to do about it. So your business succeeds not on the basis of who you know, but how you do your business. That should be really what all of us should be focused on. Your business should not succeed or fail based on which government is in power. Right? It should be on the basis of the plans and the programs that you have as business people and what your business plan is. And that should be the basis of rating success. And this will happen. This will happen. It will be difficult. It will be noisy. But it will happen. It will happen. It will happen because there's no going back. And this is an agenda I just want to be very, very, very clear about.
You indeed told me that a jobless Kenyan is a desperate Kenyan. You told me also that a hungry Kenyan is a negative Kenyan. You told me that a sick Kenyan is a weak Kenyan. And you also told us that a homeless Kenyan is a Kenyan without hope. You, the Kenyan people, spoke clearly. We want dignity. We want to put enough food on our tables. And we want a lower cost of living. We listened. Since, and on reflection, I have come up with 4 responses to these concerns, and I call them the big 4. Food security, affordable housing, manufacturing, and affordable health care for all.
That is the position on the big 4. Food security, health, universal health care, housing, affordable housing, manufacturing. Many of the people in the rural areas would like to know how food security is very important. To have food enough for eating and surplus for export. To have enough food to feed families. Many people would like to know what universal health care is. We need to start to talk to people, to tell them, to do documentaries. How is the fishing? What type of fishing can be done on a small 1 acre? We need to go out inside in the villages, get our teams that can come up with all documentaries, weekly, daily, so that fishing can be improved. Fishing can become one of the food. When people talk about food in Africa, Miriam, in Siaya, for example, people think of the maize, but fish is also a food item that must be stored, that must have facilities for.
The 4th element is food security and nutrition. Since independence, we as a people have sought to ensure that our citizens enjoy food security and proper nutrition. And while we have made good progress, the challenge, however, remains yet to be fully conquered. It is time to address once and for all the multiple and interlocking factors that leave too many Kenyans at risk of hunger. Our immediate actions start now. We will bring targeted taxation to bear to put arable land to use. We will continue to encourage and facilitate large-scale commercial agriculture to diversify our staples through irrigation and other technologies. We will protect our water towers. Small-scale farmers will receive better extension services and market access, and subsidies will be redesigned to improve food yields and production quality.
We have said 3 items: obstacles, success, and the challenges. One of the obstacles is when the agenda was set out, there was quite a lot of politics that was involved. So time has come for us to remove politics from it and assure the people, the ordinary people, the ordinary citizen of Kenya, that if you have this, you can improve the food security. If you do this, you'll improve the healthcare system. If you do this, if you can plan for a cheaper housing in your local area, a cheaper industry, an industry, a cottage industry. For example, look at what we want people. How many youths can gather themselves into a group in Kayole? 10 youths. If you can be washing people's clothes, ironing them, their shirts, when they come from school, they pay you 300 shillings or 100 shillings, Bob, or 20. And if you are doing that as a small group, this is, you see, a small cottage industry begins there. Then you end up with a huge, dry cleaner in Kayole, made by youth. But most of the people in our African context, especially Kenya and Uganda and other places, people are focused on the government getting them the jobs. But there is a job. There is the youth fund where you can go and borrow 50,000 shillings and buy dryer, buy this, buy that. You iron people's clothes. There are so many people who are lazy who want, I'm not condemning them, but they go to work very early in the morning. They don't have time to wash this cloth. But you can say, bring your shirts here. You'll have them in the tomorrow morning. You put in a dryer, iron, another youth is ironing. You earn your living. You create employment for yourselves and for the people surrounding you.
So job creation.
I want you in this spirit to also turn to the person sitting or standing next to you. Greet them and say how proud you are to be Kenyan, and tell them that you are their keeper. Because to be Kenyan, at its core, is about loving your neighbor.
To be here today to participate with my brothers and sisters in this very important forum when we are reflecting and thinking about our country. When we are thinking about our country, we are thinking about ourselves, our people at home, and the generations to come. Mine is to assure you that we are doing our best as far as investigations are concerned. But at the same time, we do have quite a number of challenges, though they have not reached a point of dispiriting us, or rather demotivating us. We are trying to say that I wish everybody in this war of corruption may come on board. One thing I can say is, even before we go for some investigations outside there, some of the frustrations which really pull us down is some of the strange orders that we receive. Other than even starting the investigation, we are stopped even before we record a statement from somebody who you know very well are stolen from Kenyans. You know very well, and all Kenyans know, we are pursuing this person, and it's not something we're imagining. We all know, and we cannot lie to ourselves, surely, and everything can show, but we are stopped even before questioning that person. And when we receive some of those orders, like another one which I received just the other day, I was not even at the stage of even pursuing that person whatsoever. Then when the Hondas came, I ran them very well. Do not use the door to go and arrest Mr. Hay. Then I said, okay, why is this preemptive? Then I said, fine, I consulted my regular advisors, they are here. And then I said, no, through my information, there is a window. If I cannot use the door to go and take Mr. Hay, then I'm going to use the window. And once I get through the window, I get a smoking gun, which is killing us. Just smoking, just immediately from murdering us Kenyans. When you steal from us, the hospital money, loans money, development fund for all this country, what do you think you are? You are not better than that terrorist you are battling there in the Dusit and other areas. Then, immediately, faithfully carrying our smoking gun, then what happened? We are told, don't dare, don't even bring this smoking gun here. Don't even touch that person. We are bad. Please listen to me. I have it here. Why don't you give me 10 minutes even to demonstrate I'm not malicious? Surely this is what I have. Then if I am, prove me within these 10 minutes. Nobody is ready to listen to us. What I can say is, thank you for prayers and support from Kenyans. I know very well that issue of mafia in Italy. It was completely almost replica, the capture of the mafia. The way the war was won, and the people's cry, they were wiped dry their tears. It was through the corrective working and bravery of their police, prosecution, and judiciary. When most of them, they are on BCD, and then the police said, no, enough is enough. Our people have cried enough. Let's go to fight for our people. In as much some of them were still with the mafia. It was massacre. They said it's okay, let's die, but for the world cause of our people. The prosecution came on board and said, no, equally we hear the cry of our people. Let's join the war. They joined the police, the prosecutors. Then the judiciary came and said, no. Then we shall not be left. They came on board. The war was won for their people, ultimately. We can say, equally in Kenya, we can take the cry of our Kenyans and say, this greed, these millions we are stealing every day, start them in bank, there are papers, we shall read them in this world. Let us say, what is enough for us is what God has given us. And the moment we say collectively, we are going to fight this war together, I can for sure tell you, this country is beautiful, it has plenty for each and every one of us. And I can for sure we shall have peace of mind. And even during our last days when they do come, even that billionaire and all that, he will be smiling, knowing if there is heaven, me, I'm a Christian, I believe there is one. At least then have a space after the one hereafter. So that one is to say, continue supporting us, praying for us. We shall do our level best, and we shall give all that we have for the sake of our motherland. Thank you.
Viewers, good morning. This morning, I want to address the issue of Uhuru Kenyatta's legacy. The legacy of His Excellency President Uhuru Kenyatta of Kenya keeps on moving, keeps on going forward and forward. Since the handshake in 2018, that brought about the peace, the tranquility, the unity of purpose, President Uhuru's star has been rising. All over Africa, people are thinking of using the model that Kenya used to stop any form of violence, chaos on the streets after elections. As you know, all of you are aware that elections in Africa produce two things: after or before or after the voting. Disputed elections, winner takes it all, loser doesn't accept the results. But the Kenyan model takes us miles and miles away from the normal type of democracy. The democracy, a negotiated format, a consensus format. A democracy that gives consensus a chance. A democracy that talks about the future of a country, the unity of a country, as opposed to a fragmented country, polarized country, where most African countries find themselves in. We have seen in the last 10 years or so, most of the elections in Africa have been contested by the opposition. Very few people in Africa, countries in Africa, where opposition has conceded defeat and come up to congratulate the winner. We have seen the South African model has worked very well. The Ghanaian model has worked so well. I don't see any other country in Africa where the models have worked well. I thought it would be Sierra Leone, but today we see Sierra Leone going back to the same ethnic tensions, as you can see from the reports that are circulating in the international media and the local media. So elections in Africa are contentious issues. They create a contentious position, create a departing point for the people of Africa, of that particular nation. The legacy of Uhuru Kenyatta, therefore, will be remembered for having brought the tranquility that we have today, the peace, the new format, the new tool of having a better organized civil Africa, an Africa without violence, an Africa without chaos after elections, when the opposition accepts to work for the interests of a nation, not personal interests. This has worked in Kenya, and thank you very much, Your Excellency President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, for the tenacity and the steadfastness that you have guided this handshake up to today. For those who want to mutilate the handshake, belittle the handshake, one lesson they should learn is to look at Libya. Libya was once a territory we all respected. It is no more. Let's keep the handshake and the legacy of President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. Thank you.
Launching the BBI Task Force report. Makofi.
Your Excellency, I am very happy that the document, the recommendations, and the proposals that have been put forward informs us on how to build institutions to get our politics away from personalities and ethnicities to institutions that will carry all of us, irrespective of who we are, where we come from, the language we speak, or the political party we subscribe to.
Kusema ya kwamba pesa mingi ije mashinani, tunaunga mkono. Ipelekwe mpaka ifike kama kuanzia 35% kuelekea juu. Hiyo pesa itumike kwa mambo ya maendeleo, not for consumption. Recurrent expenditure should not be above 30%. 70% should go for development.
Ni kwa nini baada ya kila miaka mitano tunaenda miaka mitatu ya kazi, miaka ya 2 tunapoteza kwa sababu siasa imechacha? Tunataka tuulize wafanyabiashara wetu wenzetu, ni nini inawazuia? Ni nini tuwaweza kufanya ndio tuhakikishe ya kwamba biashara zenu hazisimami? We must have development plans that are 20 years plus if we are to resolve our problems, my brothers and sisters. Tunataka tuwapatie assurance ya kwamba wanaweza kupatia wananchi mikopo ya miaka 10, miaka 15, kwa sababu they have confidence ya kwamba Kenya will be stable and Kenya will always have leadership, whoever it is.
A very good morning to you, and thank you so much for joining us. This is Good Morning Africa show, and of course, the television station is Punchline Africa TV, coming to you all the way from the Kenya's capital in Nairobi, as well as in conjunction with South Cameroon Broadcasting System, where right now, in case you're watching us through the satellite, you could tune in to SCBC, and you shall find us there right now. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, good evening, depending on which part of the world you are watching us from, because we normally have a huge range of viewers from all over the world, and we really truly appreciate you being with us here today. So Dr. Matanga is back, and he shall be joining us at the top of the hour, where we shall be looking at the news-making headlines in Africa and in Kenya, and of course today's topic, as well as when it comes, that is when we shall look at the leading newspapers here in Kenya. We shall look at the headlines of the newspapers here in Kenya. So right now, I'd just like us to go through to, what's making headlines in Africa. And of course, South Sudan. Today is the 30th of January 2020. So we are looking at around about 23 days to go to the peace process. And there's so much that we have in store for you in regards to that. But right now, let's start with the disturbing stories that are coming from the Democratic Republic of Congo. And officials in the east of the Democratic Republic of Congo say at least 36 people have been killed by suspected rebels. This is the latest in a series of attacks believed to have been carried out by the rebel Allied Democratic Forces. The Congolese army began an operation against the rebel group in October, and the rebels came at night and attacked the village of Mamuve near Wicha town. The administrator of Beni, Donald Kibwana, said all the victims were killed with machetes, and this seems to be yet another attack by the ADF, a rebel group with no clear political agenda. And we go to Libya, where French President Emmanuel Macron has accused his Turkish counterpart Recep Tayyip Erdogan of breaking his promise to stay out of Libya. Mr. Macron said Turkish warships accompanied by Syrian mercenaries have been spotted arriving in Libya. Mr. Erdogan has not responded to the allegations. Earlier this month, world leaders pledged not to interfere in Libya's civil conflict and vowed to uphold a UN arms embargo. Turkey supports the United Nations-backed government of national accord in Tripoli, while France has nurtured ties with government's rival, the rebel General Khalifa Haftar. We go to Burkina Faso, where suspected Islamist extremists attacked a busy market in Burkina Faso and killed more than 30 people over the weekend. Authorities say as the West Africa's country security situation deteriorates, the death toll could be as high as 50 people. Burkina Faso's national television reported on Monday evening it was the second attack in northern Burkina Faso in a week that has left dozens dead. Meanwhile, the Norwegian Refugee Council warned that as many as 900,000 people could be displaced in the country by April, up from current estimates of 560,000 people. And we go to Sudan, where Sudan's former President Omar al-Bashir on Tuesday appeared at the Prosecutor General's office in Khartoum to be questioned about his role in the 1989 coup that brought him to power. Bashir's lawyer said he had refused to respond to inquiries related to the coup, saying the probe lacked credibility. Bashir's lawyer, Mohammed Al-Amin, told the press, and I'll quote him, that the former president and all the defendants refused to develop the accusation because the one who made these allegations was the prosecutor general himself before he became prosecutor general. And we go to Nigeria, where Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari now says he is baffled by the resurgence of the terrorist group Boko Haram, who have recently carried out attacks against civilian and military establishments. And just quoting what Mr. Buhari said, and I was taken aback by what is happening in the northwest and other parts of the country during our campaigns. We knew about Boko Haram. What is coming now is surprising, Mr. Buhari said. And he added that he believes it's not ethnicity or religion, rather it is one evil plan against the country. Buhari's government has repeatedly claimed to have defeated Boko Haram, a key pledge that was made to the Nigerian people in the 2015 and 2019 elections. And we move to South Sudan, where the Trump administration's top Africa diplomat lashed out at South Sudan's rulers on Monday and urged the country's warring parties to defer agreement on sticky issues until after a transitional government is formed. The elites need to get to the point of serving their own people instead of their own selfish interests. That is what Mr. Tibor Nagy, the U.S. Assistant Secretary of State for African Affairs, said. He also added that the international community is sick and tired and fed up with providing the government services that the government of South Sudan should be providing for its own people. Mr. Nagy also warned that stable peace may not be achieved for years if leaders do not meet at the February 22nd deadline for forming a transitional government. The question of how many states the country ought to consist or should be resolved after the parties have met at the deadline, Mr. Nagy suggested. And still staying with South Sudan, and the government will not accept any further extension of the pre-transitional period over political stalemates. The Minister of Information has said. Michael Makuei-Lueth was reacting to a press statement issued by SPLM-IO last week when it called for deployment of United Nations Protection Force and the resolution of the issue on the number of states before the formation of a unity government. The deputy spokesperson of the main opposition group, Manawa Peter, had told the iRadio there in South Sudan that SPLM-IO would find it difficult to participate in a coalition government without determination of the number of states. And we move to Zimbabwe, where the United States Senate Foreign Relations Committee has called for a review of the sanctions regime on Zimbabwe, with a call for more names to be added to the sanctions list to deter human rights abuses. Senators Jim Risch of Idaho and the chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, Chris Coons of Delaware, and a member of the Subcommittee on African Global Health Policy, sent a letter on Wednesday to Treasury Secretary Stephen Mnuchin and Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, requesting that the U.S. Department of Treasury update the list of sanctioned persons in Zimbabwe. The senators called for a balance of new designations with appropriate removals, which they said would incentivize changes in behavior by government agents. It's very interesting there. And we end with Somalia, where an executive minister in Somalia's semi-autonomous Jubaland state, Abdirashid Hassan Nur, disappeared from police custody in Mogadishu on Tuesday morning, according to Somalia's Deputy Police Commissioner. Now, Deputy Police Commissioner Zakia Hussein said that the authorities have launched a hunt for Nur and asked the public to volunteer any information which will lead to his capture. Nur had been arrested in August last year at the Aden International Airport in Mogadishu on accusations of serious human rights violations and killings of Gedo by the United Nations Somali and Eritrea monitoring group. So that is the latest from Africa this morning. Thank you so much. Keep writing. As I said earlier, Dr. Matanga will be joining us at the top of the hour, and we shall look at, the topic of the day and also the news-making headlines across Kenya this morning. We shall look at the newspapers here and the headlines and what is there. And of course, today, yesterday, one of our governors here, was impeached by the Senate. So that must have sent a shockwave across, these 47 counties. The other 46 counties. Of course, we have two more governors who are still, facing some trials in the courts. That is Nairobi governor and also the Laikipia governor, who are facing nearly similar charges. And so that should be a cause of alarm to them. And as we speak right now in Kiambu, there's a ceremony there that is ongoing to swear in the deputy governor for Kiambu as the new governor for Kiambu County. That is the conversation we shall be having when Dr. Matanga joins us here on top of the hour. But right now, I just went through the news-making headlines across Africa. So let's just now look at them piece by piece and see. And if there's anything else I've left out there, a country that you think something is happening elsewhere in Africa that I did not mention, please feel free to share with me, and I will be happy to share with the rest of the world. Otherwise, thank you so much for keeping it here. So we started with the Democratic Republic of Congo, and we see how things are. This insurgents that has returned in Congo, and that, the government, Mr. Felix Tshisekedi, who just celebrated his 1 year in office last week. And we see here, this is becoming a problem. Slowly and slowly, insurgency is crippling back to the Democratic Republic of Congo. And before you know it, this is how civil wars start. Because if, the civilians feel that they're not protected by the government, if civilians feel that, their lives is at a threat, what they will do is they'll go ahead and arm themselves, and they will go attack whatever other ethnic community or another group that they feel is threatening their livelihood or is attacking them. And before you know it, a very small situation has gotten out of hand. So this and current, the new, deaths that have been reported there, from the Democratic Republic of Congo now, that says 36 people have been killed by suspected rebels. Who is funding these rebels? Who is behind these rebel activities? What is President Felix Tshisekedi doing about this? What is this? Why? Because it has been happening for a while. People cannot keep dying in huge numbers like this. And we don't see a punitive move or something from the government. Mr. Tshisekedi has been very quiet, and he's not come out outright to deal with these insurgents of these suspected rebels, these militants from different sides of the country. He should come out and ensure that his people are safe. Otherwise, the DRC might go back to the days where, the country was not very governable. And so 36 people have been killed by suspected rebels. This is the latest in a series of attacks believed to have been carried out by the rebel allied democratic forces. Where are they based? Who is funding these people? What is their agenda? What is really going on? And what is the government of the Democratic Republic of Congo doing or saying about it? Remember, of course, it is in Beni town, and this area called Beni has seen a lot of these kind of attacks happen in the even last year. A lot of killings happened around this area. And you remember even yesterday, I think, when we were discussing the South Sudan matter, where about 32 people died from an attack that happened in the RBA area, the disputed area that is still under dispute between South Sudan and Sudan. And this particular place that these people, the civilians, were killed, there are United Nations, people there who are supposed to be offering security to the civilians over there. And so they were wondering, why is it that this has happened to the people, and yet the security officials are there, the United Nations security officials are right there in that place, in that village, near that village, and yet these attacks happened. And so this is a matter that was even brought up to the House of Lords there in the UK, and there's a member of parliament, a legislator from there, who visited that area and said, you know what, here, looking at the situation, looking at where this place is situated and where these murders took place and where the United Nations security officials are, this is something that could have been averted. They would have come in and protected the civilians. So it's true what the civilians in South Sudan are saying, that these officials refuse to protect them. Because when you look at how it is, you know, it was not supposed to happen like that. They should have been able to protect the civilians because of the proximity to where this happened, but they failed to do that. So they failed to protect the innocent lives of the people of South Sudan. And so this is something that is being debated over there. So this is the same, a similar situation in the DRC, this area where, the Beni area, where you see the attacks keep happening time and time again. The United Nations mission is right there. The police post is just right there. I hear there's an army barracks just not too far from there, but these attacks keep happening. What is happening? Why? What is it that we are not being told? How can all these security personnel not be able to contain the security in Beni, in the Democratic Republic of Congo? Every day we just people are being killed. By the time a gang of rebels or people are able to slaughter because they are using machetes, not even guns, where you can say they can shoot from a distance. For a person to murder you using a machete, they need to come closer to where you are. How do they access these areas with this heavy security around this place? I do not understand. There's something that the government of Democratic Republic of Congo is not telling the world. And Mr. Tshisekedi, your number one, responsibility as the president of a Democratic Republic of Congo is to protect lives of the people there that you lead as their president. And so these are some of the things that we should be looking at as Africans and say and measure the failures of our leaders, because we see this happen time and time again, and we cannot continue treating this as a usual thing here in Africa, because we've become very complacent. We don't talk about it, we don't complain about it, we don't demand for action, and we don't hold our leaders accountable. And speaking about holding our leaders accountable, I'll just jump right into it. As I said there, Dr. Matanga will be joining us on the top of the hour, and then we shall discuss our topic of the day, looking at also other news making headlines in Kenya and all the, the newspapers. We shall look at that when he joins us. But right now, we're just going through the news making headlines across Africa this morning. And as we were looking at the killings that happened in the DRC yesterday, and it has been something that has been happening for a while now, and we have not seen Mr. Felix Tshisekedi, President Tshisekedi, come out and address this matter we've not seen him come out and really address this matter and tell us what is his intelligence doing, what are some of the intelligence they've gathered, what is happening. They already know these rebels exist. Who is funding these rebels? Where do they come from? What is their agenda? And how can they mitigate this? Because civilians cannot keep dying. Tanzania, Burundi, other countries, we cannot keep, receiving, refugees while they have a government in their country who is supposed to make sure that they are protected inside their own country. I think that that is something that perhaps, other countries that maybe SADC or other countries could, try and see what is really happening. African Union, come on now, go and check what is really happening in the Democratic Republic of Congo. And as we were speaking yesterday, of course, the term of the current AU chairperson, that is President Al-Fattah al-Sisi of Egypt, is ending quite soon, and South African President Cyril Ramaphosa is set to take from him, and as he was outlining some of the things that he intends to look at after he becomes the chairperson of African Union, and one of them is to see peace. So these are some of the things that I hope that under his leadership, Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa, peace cannot exist if these civil wars and these attacks and this militia are allowed to thrive anywhere in Africa. And when they're happening in one African country, is a threat to the rest of African countries because, when refugees leave that area, they go to other countries, we get to share the burden. And it's not a bad thing. It's good to be our brother's keeper. But if we can avoid that situation altogether, then it will be okay. So I'm hoping that President Tshisekedi can actually start looking at this matter very, very keenly and see what's happening there in the Democratic Republic of Congo. And speaking of that, let's just look at this matter here this morning. And I was just reading this news as I saw it yesterday, just after I finished this show, and I thought I wish I'd had seen this information before. But I read it on the BBC news site just after I finished the show yesterday. And apparently, Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari says he is baffled. President Muhammadu Buhari is very baffled. And you know what is baffling to him? The resurgence of the terrorist group Boko Haram. What do you mean the resurgence? Where did Boko Haram go? Did he not campaign on coming back to finish Boko Haram? In his first term, in his second term, was that not his key promise that he will come and finish Boko Haram? And we've been talking here. And yesterday, I think this must have been prompted by what the legislators there in Nigeria said when they said that the federal government was complacent by the insecurity in the different parts of Nigeria that are now sort of being controlled by Boko Haram. So let me just read what Mr. Buhari said. So he said he's very baffled by the resurgence of the terrorist group Boko Haram, who are currently carrying out attacks against civilians and military establishments. So I'll just read this quote directly from Mr. Buhari, and he said, "I was taken aback by what is happening in the northwest and other parts of the country. During our campaigns, we knew about Boko Haram. What is coming is now surprising," Buhari said. This is according to a local media portal. And then he added, "It is not ethnicity or religion, rather it is one evil plan against the country." Now this escapist, he is trying to escape from taking responsibility from that sentence there. He's saying it's not ethnicity or religion, rather it is one evil plan against the country. By who? By who? Who is the enabler of Boko Haram? Who has made Boko Haram thrive very much in Nigeria? So Buhari's government, of course, has repeatedly claimed to have defeated Boko Haram, a key pledge that was made to the Nigerian people during the 2015 and, of course, 2019 elections that happened sometimes back last year. So this escapist mentality, this out-of-touch mentality, and we talked about it here yesterday, Mr. Buhari now is very baffled. He's surprised, he just woke up from a slumber. And yesterday, as we were talking, and I expressed how I think that the government of President Muhammadu Buhari was completely out of touch with what was really happening on the ground in matters of security and other things that are happening in Nigeria. So I feel very vindicated by this statement that comes from a president who seems very aloof and completely out of touch with what is happening to the people that he's supposed to be leading there in Nigeria. So he's saying he's baffled by the resurgence of the terrorist group. What do you mean resurgence of the terrorist group of Boko Haram? Boko Haram never went anywhere. They were just there. But after you came to power, Mr. Buhari, their activities became very intensified. And the promise that you've given to the people of Nigeria, you did not bother to keep that because otherwise Boko Haram will not be thriving. Right now, there's a part of the country, a whole highway, as we were talking here yesterday, that is under the control of Boko Haram. So you cannot move, they're just killing people at will. When you're driving, there's a time, I think 2 days ago, a famous actress there was attacked while they were on their way to make a film. Nigeria, Nollywood is leading in the number of films that are being produced in Africa. They're doing very well. That sector is thriving. So this actress and her whole team, they're traveling to another state to go and shoot, a movie, and they were attacked by Boko Haram. In fact, one of his assistants was killed. the person, the actor, survived. So now, one part of the country is under lockdown by Boko Haram, and the President Muhammadu Buhari now just realizes, in fact, he's baffled. Like he's baffled that he's saying that now he's baffled by the resurgence of the terrorist group. Resurgence is not even the right word. Sir, these people have been there, except they've only thrived very well under your leadership, under you being the president of Nigeria. And so he's saying that he's baffled by the resurgence and the recent attacks carried out against civilians and military establishment. Does he know that attacks in Nigeria by Boko Haram happens on a daily basis, happens every single day? And if they miss happening in Nigeria one day, then they're happening in Burkina Faso, just as I have read here earlier about an attack that happened in Burkina Faso that left about 50 people dead. So that was carried out by Boko Haram. And Boko Haram, of course, the epicenter of it is in Maiduguri, that area in northern part of Nigeria. That is where the headquarters are. That is where they sit and strategize. That is their lifeline. And you have allowed that to happen. And now it's affecting the rest of places in Africa. And so when President Muhammadu Buhari, I'm not even surprised by this statement, but it just shows you how much the president is out of touch with what is happening there in Nigeria. For him to just wake up from the slumber, it appears, and to come out and say he's baffled by the resurgence of the terrorist group Boko Haram. As if Boko Haram ever went anywhere. Boko Haram has been there. Boko Haram never took a break. The activities were perhaps a bit reduced, and when you came to power, the attacks intensified. They became more powerful, and they've grown in leaps and bounds. So, Mr. Buhari, what are you going to do about it now that you're baffled by the resurgence of Boko Haram? Now that you are shocked by how civilians have been dying there in Nigeria, what are you going to do about it? So he's saying that he learned that during the campaigns that they were having that led to last year's elections. He says that we knew about the Boko Haram, but what is coming now is surprising. Even during the campaigns last year, the situation was still worse. It wasn't like, okay, so now they were a bit on the down low and the attacks had reduced. Remember, even attacks happened on the voting day itself. So there were intensified attacks by Boko Haram. So I don't know this thing of saying that during the campaigns things were different, but now after the elections, now things have intensified. No, Boko Haram has been attacking the people of Nigeria for the longest time. And your government has done very little to mitigate some of these attacks, or even to attempt to make sure that the people of Nigeria there are safe. And so Mr. President Muhammadu Buhari there, President of the federal state of Nigeria, come on now, wake up from that slumber, stop being baffled, and you are a retired Major General. Come on now, you know something about the security. So can you ensure that the people of Nigeria are actually safe in their own country? Can you ensure that all Nigerians are able to sit in their country and not worry about being kidnapped? Because that is also something that is on the high there in Nigeria. Insecurity generally is in a complete bad state in Nigeria. But I don't know if Mr. Buhari will do anything about it when you see him coming here and saying that this is not an ethnicity or religion, rather it is one evil plan against the country. That quote, evil plan against the country, that is somebody who is escaping responsibility, Mr. Buhari. These are people who are set, of course, they're based on ideology. He does not know what Boko Haram is wants to achieve in Nigeria. He's coming. He does not know what is really happening there, and it's not ethnicity or religion. Come on now. There are some huge percentage, especially when it comes to religion and also ethnicity. Some people say it comes into play, a good percentage of that. So Mr. Buhari, there you have to do something. You have to make good of the pledge that you made to the people of Nigeria, that you shall protect them and you shall get rid of Boko Haram, even though right now, as we look at how much you've performed when it comes to that, then it has not been very well. And so I'm glad now you're just waking up. So now, Mr. President, please do something. So now let's move to another news here from South Sudan. And the Trump administration's top Africa diplomat lashed out at South Sudan's rulers on Monday and urged the country's warring parties to defer agreement on sticky issues until after a transitional government is formed. And this is something that we have been saying here. So this is what Tibor Nagy, the U.S. Assistant Secretary of State for African Affairs, said. Let me just quote him. And this is, please, if you're watching me and you're from, South Sudan, this is something that we've been saying here. And if you've been watching this show, this TV station for a while now, when you look at South Sudan matters. So this is what Tibor Nagy said. He said the elites need to get to the point of serving their own people instead of their own selfish interest. How many times have we said that? How many times have we sung this thing here as saying the leaders of South Sudan are led by their ego? It has never been about the people. The foundations of that peace deal was flawed from the start. And that is why they don't even see the big picture, which is the country and the people of South Sudan. And so Mr. Nagy added, and this is what we've been saying as well, that the international community is sick and tired and fed up with providing the government services that the government of South Sudan should be providing for its own people. So what he's saying is, as you continue to wrangle and to call each other names and to chest bump and do all these things and wanting your ego stroked and all these things and the Pope kissing your feet, and the Pope is also organizing another trip to South Sudan, as you sit there and argue about all these things that really don't matter to the people of South Sudan. Mr. Nagy is saying what now you need to know is the international community is tired. And he said it is sick and tired and fed up. This is a person who is completely done. He's just, a feet away from just washing their hands and deciding, you know what, we don't care anymore because you don't seem to be care any more than we do. So what is the point? And these are issues that we've raised here time and time again. And so he said the international community is sick and tired and fed up with providing the government services that the government is supposed to be providing for its own people. That was directed to the leadership of South Sudan. Mr. Nagy also warned that stable peace may not be achieved for years if leaders do not meet the February 22nd deadline for forming a transitional government. The question of how many states the country ought to consist of should be resolved after the parties have first met the deadline. That is what Mr. Nagy suggested. So you see here, this is something we've been saying. And sometimes when you talk about this matter, we've seen some of our viewers from South Sudan who are in different parts of the world. They come in and say, you know what, we still need your help. South Sudan still needs everybody to love on them and to help them because they still have a long way to go. And you say it here, fine. And you've seen countries come in and help South Sudan, African countries, the international community. They've all come in to help in South Sudan. But now, it's difficult to continue helping people who don't want to help themselves. And by this, I'm not saying the people of South Sudan, I'm saying the leadership of South Sudan, because at this point, the people of South Sudan really they can't do much about it. There needs to be, peace resolved amongst the leadership of South Sudan that has become very elusive. And this is because it's not doable. It's because the leaders are not willing to do it. Is because the leadership of South Sudan are just stuck in their own minds and in their own bubble, and because they enjoy state security, they enjoy allowances, they enjoy a good life, they are not able to see what really the people of South Sudan are living hell in their own countries in these refugee camps. They're not able to see how much the people are suffering, when during the cold seasons, during the hot season, the people are tired and yet they have, a huge productive land. They could go there and farm and do other things and become productive and build their country, but they cannot do that. Majority of them are stuck somewhere in a refugee camp. Others are across the world wondering, when are we going to come back home and help rebuild our country? And so these leaders don't even care anything about that. That is not something that bothers them. And they've shown it time and time and time again. And now we see Mr. Tibor Nagy, the U.S. Secretary of State for African Affairs, coming out and saying, and it's very interesting, the words that he chose to use there. This is a person who seemingly is very, very, on behalf of the United States, is very disappointed, is very fed up. Even using just his own words, he said, the international community is sick and tired and fed up with providing the government with the services that is supposed to be providing for his own people, because they're saying this help that we're giving to South Sudan, we may not be able to do it any longer. This support we've been giving, it's about time that the leadership of South Sudan got their act together so that they're able to provide these services to their people. They're able to provide leadership. They're able to, make sure that the country comes back to what it's supposed to be. So I don't know how this will be received there by the leadership of South Sudan. And even as that happens, the government now will South Sudan has come out and said it will not accept any further extension of the pre-transitional period over political stalemates. The Minister of Information has said Mr. Michael Makuei was reacting to a press statement issued by SPLM-IO last week when it called for deployment of United Nations Protection Force. There is the resolution of the issue on the number of states before the formation of a unity government. The deputy spokesperson of the main opposition group, Manasa Peter, of course, told the iRadio there in South Sudan that SPLM-IO would find it difficult to participate in a coalition government without determination of the number of states. So, Mr. Riek Machar, what President Salva Kiir is telling you is he's ready to go and they're willing to sign this peace deal, and then the matter of states will be revised, will be looked at later. And that was the position of the mediation team that was there, being led by South African Vice President Mr. David Dambisa. He came there, and that is what he said. He said, can this matter be left for later? Can it be discussed later so that it doesn't stop this peace deal from taking place? So the president's side seems to be okay with that, but Mr. Machar, we saw him through Angeline, is it Angeline or Angeline, the wife there, who came out, speaking on behalf of the husband and their party, and they say, no, we think that this matter needs to be resolved. And the fact that, the mediations team, once this done much later, appears that this mediation team is biased and they're leaning towards the government. So they're not even trusting these people who are coming there to try to help them. You cannot hold the rest of us ransom. You cannot, because you can't solve that problem by yourselves. There are other actors who have to come in there and help you, and now they have to keep coming there and just going through in circles. It's just like a huge circus trying to solve a problem that is not really even a problem. What the number of states, 1 to 10, what does it even matter? What should matter is that the people who you want to live in these states, are they fine? Do they have proper medical care? Are they at peace? Are they safe? That is what really matters. The number of states, that is not the most urgent thing that should, hold this process back. And so, of course, the government side, through communications, the information minister, Mr. Michael Makuei, came there and said, they will go ahead, and the government is really are focused on meeting the deadline that is on the 22nd of February. Now 23 days to go before that day, and so we are waiting to see what's really happening. Will Mr. Riek Machar change his mind? And he's supposed to be making the last trip in trying to find a solution there in Juba. I don't know if he's there yet, but he should be very soon. They're like 70 days into this peace deal, so we are waiting to see. Remember, an extension over 70 days, an extension of 100 days was given after they failed to meet the deadline. That was on the 12th of November 2019, and they asked for an extension. And looking at the issues that were sticky then, other players said, you know what, it's okay, let's just allow this. But I don't think, I think For the rest of the world, they've ran out of, patience with you, because they're seeing if they continue being lenient, if they continue just adding more time, this will never be done. And Mr. Nagy, the Tibor Nagy, the U.S. Assistant Secretary of State of African Affairs, came there and said he warned that a stable peace may not be achieved for years if leaders do not meet the February 22nd deadline. So it's very, very important that the stakeholders there in South Sudan are able to meet this deadline. Otherwise, there may not be any ray of hope. And for the sake of the people and the country of South Sudan, then these leaders should do the right thing. Michael Edechuku, thank you so much. And you're saying good afternoon. It's a few minutes past top of the hour. Dr. Masanga should be joining us anytime from now so that we look at today's topic and, of course, other news making headlines across Kenya. And that's why today we started with the news headlines across Africa. And we've looked at a couple. We've looked at Nigeria, where President Muhammadu Buhari is now baffled by the state of insecurity in Nigeria. And he's saying that, he didn't really think Nigeria was that insecure. When they were campaigning, he could, hear a few things here and there about Boko Haram. But now he says that he's surprised, but that things are getting out of hand. And he's just playing into the tune of what his media and somebody director there said, over the weekend when he said that, Nigeria is very safe. So it's just the media who are just over amplifying a problem that really is non-existent. And he said it's not that bad. So you see Mr. Muhammadu Buhari coming in and reiterating the same thing. And so that tells you that Nigeria, you have a government who is completely out of touch with what is really happening on the ground. And also in South Sudan, we have leaders there who are completely out of touch with what is important for the people of South Sudan. And let's just see how that will play out there in South Sudan. Now we look at Zimbabwe, and the United States Senate Foreign Relations Committee has called for a review of the sanctions regime on Zimbabwe, with a call for more names to be added. They want more names to be added to the sanctions list to deter human rights abuses. Remember, Zimbabwe has been up in arms over these sanctions, these targeted sanctions, and the US, the EU have come out. They've been speaking about this lately, and they've been saying, no, we've not sanctioned the whole country. We have not sanctioned the whole country. It's just targeted sanctions towards specific individuals, and we know, of course, these sanctions are what brought Zimbabwe to where it is today. And so, yes, while they were looking at it at the U.S. Senate, a member of Subcommittee on Africa Global Health Policy sent a letter on Wednesday to Treasury Secretary Stephen Mnuchin and Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, requesting that the U.S. Department of Treasury update the list of sanctioned persons in Zimbabwe. Yes, and to add more people in that sanction. I don't know what Dr. Matsanga will feel about these sanctions, because he's always speaking against these targeted sanctions in Zimbabwe and indeed in other African countries. And the senators called for a balance of new dignifications with appropriate removals, which they said will incentivize changes in behavior by government agents. So they're saying, as long as we keep pumping these sanctions upon them, sanctions upon sanctions upon sanctions, if we keep intensifying these sanctions and sanctioning more people, then perhaps we shall cripple this government, and we shall perhaps get a reaction, and they might hear what you're trying to say. So they're saying that, I'll just quote one of the people who was giving this statement. And one of the senators there, and he said, it is important that the United States communicate to the people of Zimbabwe that our sanctions, that is the United States sanctions programs, are aimed at deterring human rights abuses, public corruption, the undermining of democratic process of institutions, and political repression in Zimbabwe, and they're not aimed at the people of Zimbabwe. Given the developments in Zimbabwe over the last 2 years, we urge you to consider enhancing the tools at your disposal, including the use of targeted sanctions to incentivize changes in behavior by the government of Zimbabwe. So the Senate is writing to the Secretary of State Mark Pompeo and Treasury Secretary Stephen Mnuchin and telling them, more sanctions are required in Zimbabwe. But what I find to be very interesting when I'm reading through some of these issues that they are raising: human rights abuses, public corruption, the undermining of democratic processes. Undermining of democratic processes, corruption. Is this not what Mr. Trump right now his impeachment process? Is this not what formed the basis of the impeachment process there? And a lot of these senators are coming out in defense of him, the Republicans, because one of them was from Republican and the other one a Democrat. But the Republican Senator, Jim Risch, he's a senator of Idaho. So they're coming out, and this is the double standard that I really sometimes don't understand, especially when it is directed towards African countries. They're coming in here, speaking about human rights abuses in Zimbabwe that has warranted these sanctions, public corruption, the undermining of the democratic process of our institutions. That is exactly what President Donald John Trump has been doing in the United States. And you can see how they come out and they fiercely defend this behavior and this things that he's done that has now seen him face impeachment there in the United States. So they defend that, what Trump is doing, but they'll come to Africa here and try to tell us, okay, so now this is what we want for you to do. Don't worry about what is happening in our own country. But if you try to even do this is what shall come upon you. So it's very interesting, the double standards that sometimes these white people or these Western countries, impose on us, and yet they get to not have any level of responsibility when it comes to them. It's like two sets of, of treatments and standards, one for this other side of the aisle and one for them. So it's very interesting there. So even as Zimbabwe, remember last year, organized a national day, which was made like a national day for calling on sanctions, sanctions to be lifted on Zimbabwe, and the sanctions has really crippled the economy of that country. The targeted sanctions that they've come out and said they've not sanctioned the country, they've not sanctioned the leadership, they've only sanctioned a few of the people there in Zimbabwe, and we've seen it, how it has affected that country. So I'm not sure if these new reviews that they want to do on the sanctions and these new names that they want added on the sanction list of the people who have been sanctioned by the United States there in Zimbabwe. I don't know how this also will go ahead and affect the economy and the people of Zimbabwe, these targeted sanctions. But they've said that the people of Zimbabwe should, understand that their sanction programs are aimed at deterring human rights abuse, public corruption, the undermining of democratic process or institutions, and political repression in Zimbabwe, and they're not aimed at the Zimbabwean people. But at the end of the day, they get to hurt the Zimbabwean people. So I don't know how they really look at this argument, at all, if at all it balances. And let's look at Somalia, and an ex-security minister in Somalia's semi-autonomous Jubaland state, Abdirashid Hassan Nur, disappeared from police custody in Mogadishu on Tuesday morning, according to Somalia's Deputy Police Commissioner. Deputy Police Commissioner Zakia Hussein said that the authorities had launched a hunt for Nur and asked the public to volunteer any information that will lead to his capture. So this was an executive minister of the Jubaland, that is the semi-autonomous region there in Somalia, and he was in prison there. He was in prison in Somalia, and he apparently escaped escaped prison. How do you escape prison when you're a very high-profile person? What were the warders doing? Who colluded to help Mr. Noor escape prison? You just don't escape prison. I mean, it's prison. I don't know what prisons in Somalia look like, but I know here in Kenya and indeed across the world, it's not very easy to escape prison like that unless there is a collusion between the warders and, it's an inside job. You just don't escape prison like that, especially when you're a high-profile prisoner like this person was there, Mr. Abdirashid Hassan Noor, who worked is an ex-security minister. He's an ex-minister in Jubaland, and he was in prison there in Somalia, Mogadishu, and so he escaped prison. And so I don't know what kind of prison Somalia has there that anybody can just escape, but I'm sure that was an inside job. So they've said that anybody with information about this person should give it to the government of Somalia. And of course, we've looked at the situation in DRC. So now let's look at the situation in Libya. And French President Emmanuel Macron is now accusing Turkey counterpart, his Turkish counterpart, Mr. Recep Tayyip Erdogan, of breaking his promise to stay out of Libya. Of course, Mr. Macron said Turkish warships accompanied by Syrian mercenaries had been spotted arriving in Libya. I did not even know that Turkey was such a threat. Of course, Turkey is being supported by Russia, so you would understand why France and these other countries that have been running their game there in Libya must be worried. They're worried because Turkey has come in to save the UN-backed government of the National Accord in Tripoli, and France has been backing Khalifa Haftar together with Egypt and other countries, UAE and other countries. And so when, Turkey gets to suffer so much because a lot of these migrants find their way in Turkey from Syria, from Libya and these other places because of where it is situated. So it said enough is enough. Let us just come in and try solve this problem from the inside. So they went in and they're supporting now, the UN-backed government there of National Accord. And after, Turkey came in and joined this, it was a game changer. And you can see now France and other countries are not very happy, and they've been calling for Turkey to just back off. So not Turkey's warship arrived near, was spotted, and they're saying mercenaries have been spotted arriving in Libya, and they're not very happy about it. Well, Mr. Erdogan has not responded to the allegations, and earlier this month, world leaders pledged not to interfere in Libya's civil conflict and vowed to uphold a UN arms embargo. Turkey supports the United Nations-backed government of National Accord in Tripoli, while France has nurtured ties with the government's rival, the rebel General Khalifa Haftar. So this is a game change. I don't know if this presence of Turkey there will help find peace in Libya that has been very elusive. And as we keep talking here, we've mentioned how under the leadership of the AU chairperson that is now outgoing, Mr. Al-Sisi, he failed miserably to try and bring solution to Libya. But we saw in how he was really involved as a president, and also the country of Egypt, how it is really deep in the middle of all this mess, how, even him trying to find a solution was going to be impossible. And indeed, he was not able to do anything much further in Libya. Even the meeting that they had there earlier in April last year did not bear much fruit because we didn't see anything change. Instead, we saw the situation going from bad to worse every waking day. And now the increased people who are dying in the Mediterranean, who are being saved, the migrants who had come to there trying to run away because their lives are in danger has also increased. And the coming in of Turkey there is really a game changer. And perhaps this is the might that was required to come in and try and salvage the situation in Libya. But Of course, as we have said here, and also statistics and reports have shown that the international players that are in that country, in Libya, that are fueling this war are the ones who are making peace to become quite elusive in this country, because they're coming in with different interests, and their interest is not really finding peace in Libya or trying to, protect the people there in Libya. And so let's just see how this will play out. And now they're accusing, Turkey. France is accusing Turkey of coming in, and they spotted the warship, and they're saying, Erdogan has, the country, has really broken its promise to stay out of Libya. But how can you accuse Turkey that they've broken that promise, and yet France has broken this promise over and over and over again? An arms embargo against Libya was issued long time ago, in 2011. An arms embargo was issued, but nobody has ever bothered to honor this. That includes France. They're the ones who have been, facilitating some of these weapons that are used against the people there in Libya. So now all of a sudden, you want to lecture, Turkey about breaking the promise. And if Turkey is breaking that promise, then it's not a good thing, because after that meeting that was chaired by, Angela Merkel about 2 weeks ago, that they agreed that there should be a ceasefire, and the arms embargo should be respected, and and so they all agreed. But now, after they saw that there's a Turkey ship coming in and arriving in Libya, I think Turkey is just making sure should anything happen, then they protect whatever they're supposed to be protecting there. So I don't know why France has a problem. While they have been inside, they have been engaged in this war time and time. They have been in the middle of all this mess, and a solution has not been gotten. And so I think by Turkey coming in, that made them a bit nervous, and they cannot. Turkey is not a pushover. You can't. Turkey is not a pushover. So let's just see. Of course, after the meeting there that was organized by Angela Merkel, the rest of the process was left to the African Union to look at. And when I read that part, the African Union was supposed to facilitate the rest of the agreements, I said, oh my goodness, I wish Angela Merkel and those people would have just continued with the talks. Perhaps there would have been hope for a peace to return in Libya, but giving that to the African Union, who over time and time again have proven, that it is an institution that we don't even need here in Africa, to be honest, because it has failed in its mandate. It has failed in making sure that the people it represents, that is across Africa, are able to enjoy its presence, are able to actually see them come in and try to mediate upon these civil wars in the country, are able to see that they can sanction a leader across the states that are party to it. But we've seen, presidents in Africa violating even the codes, the things that they signed that as member states of African Union, and they get away scot-free. We've seen leaders murdering their own citizens in their country. African Union failing to take them to account. We've seen this happen and happen again, and so it has failed, and that's why it was quite interesting when these mediation talks were happening in Germany, and African Union was was invited as a participant. Not just African Union was the one who was supposed to spearheading these talks, but was invited as a participant to that to those talks. And it's just why do we need African Union in Africa? If it can't even be on the front lines to making sure that the people in Africa are able to be protected. The people of the leadership in Africa are able to be held to account. So it was not such a good show. As an African, I felt very embarrassed because this is an African country, and we are supposed to find our own solutions to our problems here. We keep saying that we're independent, and all the states in African Union are independent, and yet we cannot solve our country. We have to. An outside country from Europe has to call us for a meeting. And African Union, you're supposed to be the ones spearheading this meeting on solving the problems in Libya, but you failed. So you're being called to a meeting to solve a problem in an African country, and you're just invited as a participant, the same way they invited a European Union, the same way they invited other players, you invited as a participant. And this is a problem of an African country in Africa that you have failed to get a solution for. It is such a shame. And African Union leadership should be ashamed, and President Fattah al-Sisi should be ashamed, because in his 1 year as the chairperson of African Union, I can't point a finger and see what is it has he achieved, except helping fueling the war in Libya, except extending his presidential term there in his own country. What else? What else did al-Sisi do when he was the chairperson of African Union throughout 2019? So now let's just wait what Cyril Ramaphosa perhaps will do. He said one of the things that he wants to come in and do when he assumes the seat of the African Union chairship is to try to bring peace. I'm just hoping that these civil wars, these deaths that have been happening across Africa, he has them on a list, and he'll try solving. He'll try solving the problems in Sudan. He'll try solving the problems in South Sudan. He'll try solving the problems in Amazonia. He'll try solving the problems in Biafra, and he'll try solving his own madness, his own country, in the name of xenophobia. Yesterday, as we were here talking about it, we saw a group of refugees who are still stuck in a church somewhere after the last xenophobic attacks. They've been stuck in a church. They don't have a place to go. They've made makeshift tents there. Others were born in South Africa. So you're telling them to go home. They're thinking, home where? Where? Others have been there for many years, started their businesses and started a life in South Africa, and you're telling them to go to where? And so the residents there already a place in Johannesburg, not Johannesburg, but Cape Town, are very uncomfortable with having these what they call foreigners around that area. So they have been again protesting to have these non-South Africans who are Africans from other countries removed from that place. So Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa, as you resume that seat as Africa Union chairperson, can you start solving that madness in your country, and then you lead by example, and then you can come here and talk to us about peace and unity and prosperity across Africa. But when you come, you have a lot waiting for you, and some of these wars that we've been seeing, and now this one that is being marinated in Beni area in the Democratic Republic of Congo. We want to see that solved. We want to see you holding, holding the leadership there of the DRC accountable. Let them tell you what is happening in the Democratic Republic of Congo, and do they need any more help? But the last time we checked, the UN has the largest continent, I think over 16,000 soldiers there in Democratic Republic of Congo, and still we see some of these unnecessary deaths happen. So it's very unfortunate situation. So I'm going to take a very short break, and when we come back, of course, we shall look at I think I'm through with the African news, and then we shall look at our topic of the day and other news making headlines across Kenya this morning. This afternoon, about 25 minutes past noon. Don't go too far. Good morning, Africa. We shall be right back.
I want to call upon the people of Amazonia today, wherever you are in the diaspora in Amazonia itself, that in a struggle you are bound to have divisions. But divisions should not divert you from the main focus, the main challenge. We have struggled to expose the happenings, the human rights abuses in Amazonia. The army has killed hundreds and hundreds of thousands, burnt houses of people, internet was cut off, schools were closed, dispensaries, hospitals were burnt down. Amazonians should not be intimidated by Paul Robia. It is not upon the leaders of Amazonia, because I am not from Amazonia, but I've played a pivotal role in making sure that I loud out the voices, I put out the call, I call upon AU, EU, United Nations, Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International, Many of them have listened to some of the things that I say here, and they have come at last. America, United States of America, is slowly moving towards giving the Amazonian people the dignity they deserve. I therefore call upon the leaders and the leadership of the Amazonian people to unite for a purpose. The unity of purpose is paramount, as opposed to disunity, which has nothing but only produces ego that we have seen in South Sudan. What has killed South Sudan is not because they don't have the money, the minerals, the resources. Is ego between Riek Machar and Salva Kiir. We would not like to see that ego come to the people of Amazonia, the leadership of Amazonia. I call upon Samuel Sako, Akanga, Milan, and Eko to unite and talk with one voice on international scene that will bring about the peace, the tranquility that you yearn for since 1961, when the resolution 1608 was abandoned by the United Nations General Assembly and Amazonia was annexed by the Cameroon government by then. I call upon you, my brothers, to pick up the unity call and free your people without disintegration. Thank you.
Welcome back, and thank you so much for continuing to watch us. Of course, right now, as I said there earlier, Dr. Matanga was to join us, and indeed, he's here with us in the studio. Dr. Matanga, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Miriam. Thank you very much for holding the fort for the last 3 to 4 days. 4 days.
Welcome back.
Thank you very much. Pan-Africanism needs Pan-African spirit. And while I was there, you noticed that I continued to work. We continued to work. I took up to see how best we can help Africa. As you are aware, the African Union Summit is taking place next month, and there is quite a lot of lobby work to be done among us Africans and among us the other organizations worldwide, so that we put a united front. The question of Somalia and Kenya maritime crime situation poses a threat. We have only 4 months left, and some of us who have already taken part in this endeavor, we shall assist the two countries to come to terms and leave the ICJ direction. So these are some of the things that have preoccupied me as a Pan-African, and a man who stands, an activist, an international activist, a person who stands for the world, who speaks for those voices that cannot be heard. And I thank you very much for holding the fort. All the things that I predicted, Miriam, have come true. They seem to be coming true. Waititu is gone. Who is next? If you are thinking that you have a problem, we still is not yet over. The situation in Kenya, as far as corruption is concerned, has become a reality. President Uhuru Kenyatta is real and is determined to fight corruption. But there is one thing that has worried everybody. As we speak, a few minutes ago, guess what they have done? The governor of Samburu has won an appeal. The DPP had filed an application seeking to nullify that a person who is on leave cannot make appointments. It brings me to the topic of today. The rotten judiciary in Kenya of Kenya. The rotten, everything seems to be sorry about that. The topic is very interesting. The rotten judiciary in Kenya of Kenya. The corrupt, rotten judiciary. A few minutes, 30 minutes ago, the appeal court or the court, high court in the Milimani has just said the governor was right to appoint. Then why do you say the governor should step aside and never to step in the office? On which letterhead was the governor appointing? What was the authority? Those who were removed by him, yet he is on suspension, not to go to the office. The judges of this country are shaming the people of this country. Kenya is a country that leads in Africa. Kenya leads, others follow. If you start doing the things that the judges in Kenya are doing, other people are going to follow and do the same. You give a staggering bail condition. You allow the suspect to go out. Which type of court is this in this country? In this world? I have never seen a court in this world. I've lived in a developed country or older democracy of 1,600 years. If you fail to pay a license for a TV license, and you are taken before the magistrate's court in London, if you don't have that 56 pounds, you will not leave the magistrate's court until your wife, your child, your daughter, your father, your son, your girlfriend, your boyfriend comes to pay the 56 pound only. So I am asking, what rationale did Mr. Andai release Mr. Babu Owino? Staggered 10 million. You know, many people have been criticizing me for not speaking about Babu Owino. Usually I don't speak about friends, but I'm speaking about the court, how the court is conducting. Is Mr. Maraga seeing this? Is there a provision in the Constitution of Kenya that you can release a suspect on manslaughter or call it attempted murder and tell him go and look for the money while you are outside? Then the rest of the people can do the same. Why do you detain them in jail? Why?
That release of Babu Owino really was very unexpected, and you pay in installments. I've never had a bail condition where you pay in installment.
That's exactly what has taken place.
2.5 years.
You pay in installments? Ha! Is this country, is the court, is the judiciary in Kenya? Really, you people, you might say this man. But for sure, let me ask you a Kenyan. Have you ever heard of such a thing?
In fact, I was just, when that ruling was being given, or that bail condition was being given, let me just read a part of it. And Embakasi East Member of Parliament, Babu Owino, was Monday released on a 10 million Kenya shillings cash bail, which the court said will be used to settle the medical bill of DJ Evolve. When you're given a cash bail, it should not go anywhere. It should stay with the court. How is it this money is going to settle the medical bill of DG?
He says he's going to use this money to settle the medical bill.
The medical bill.
It doesn't matter. What is the medical bill is in the hands of the state.
But is that how it's supposed to be done? The bail money, is it not supposed to stay with the court?
Yes. Mm-hmm. You don't use it to go and what type of reasoning?
And offset the
the Chief Justice should sack Mr. Andai. Mr. Andai should be on his way home. Unfortunately, he lost the wife, I'm told. So we are not going to hammer him so much. May he, whatever we have had the reports.
But let's just look at his...
But when he comes back, he should not attempt to be in that office. He has been one of the best judges, magistrates in that court. I don't know what went over him. Was he being, cognitive, there is this thing of cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance, where you change on behavior. Maybe he was affected at home because the wife was sick and he forgot. He had released a murderer, an attempted murderer, who shot on point blank. Pooh.
And there's a video too.
Yes, and I say you go, and you can bring the money the day you want.
Pay in installments.
Yes.
When has bail conditions been paid in installments?
Woo.
And this matter, Doctor, really angered the Director of Public Prosecution, Nurdin Aji, who on Wednesday revealed that his office was in the process of filing for a revision of the bail ruling for Embakasi East Member of Parliament, Mr. Paul Ongili, alias Babu, we know, that was issued. So he's not happy at all. He's really expressed his disappointment in the manner in which the court handled, the case, and of course arguing that the decision reached was in total disregard of the Constitution. Did this judge go against the Constitution?
Yes, he did. I don't see any article in the Constitution that talks about a release of a bail suspect, a suspect on staggered bail payments. I have never seen it in the United States. I've never seen it in London. I've never seen it in any African country. Only Kenya makes history. And the history for the bad words, things that we see here. So, Miriam, the corruption in a rotten judiciary. The Deputy Chief Justice is corrupt on corrupt charges, on money laundering, on using letterheads of the judiciary to obtain loan. That is presenting falsified documents. She's still there, shining. Do we lack a beauty in the court? Do we lack a beauty? Maybe we can now do a beauty contest for the judiciary so that we can feel beautiful ladies. Since the bench has only 2 women, let's get other beautiful lawyers in this country who can fill the bench of the Supreme Court, so that maybe they have put her there for decoration. Because to me, whether you leave her, if she stays there, she's denting Maraga. Maraga is on spot. The president went there to speak. The president somehow became reconciliatory, thinking things will improve. Just a few minutes, you will hear that Waititu has received a court order barring anybody from swearing in as a governor. The case is going on now. Is this the court that Kenya, the things that are happening in Kenya, viewers, is that there is a competition. There is someone who tells the court, if Uhuru does this, you also do this. If Uhuru announces about corruption, you go and steal even more and shame President Uhuru Kenyatta. If you look at what Kimani Kunjiri is saying and what this man, the former agriculture minister, was saying yesterday in Irari, at a funeral and the DP is watching. They are hammering the boss. The DP is watching. I was told, by the way, I will keep quiet. Because, yes, I'll keep quiet, Your Excellency. I've said it on KBC today. When you needed me, there was nobody there, all of you. So as an elder, I'll call it a truce. I'll keep off. I'll keep off. Because yes, there was nobody. Nobody liked them in 2009. This one insulted, became a father, stood up as a father in Africa. I struggled for the 2 and the 6 who were wrongly victimized. I was right from point number 1. When I came to Kenya in 2009, 2008, I said the cases that Ocampo had taken to the ICC were fake. I stood by them. And I will never change. I will never hate anybody. I will not hate any of them. Whoever is using my name to say I hate, to eat more, eat properly. Otherwise it will swallow you. Matanga is not a person whom you talk about. And then you go scot-free. God has given me the guidance to speak. And the guidance I speak, Miriam, I speak the truth. I've told you the Kenyans, the Chief Justice is not a thief, maybe. But he's incompetent. A good Chief Justice should have sacked this man publicly and told him, you are suspended. A good Chief Justice would be helping on law. We are not saying he goes to release everybody or stop or to deny people bail. On law, does the Chief Justice read these cases? Does the Chief Justice read these cases? I come to you. Does he? The Deputy Chief Justice is already wounded. They timed. You saw yesterday you saw something passing by, a motion of impeachment. Didn't I say it here?
Mm-hmm. We are on the front pages of one of the papers.
Yes.
The Daily Nation, yes.
That they wanted to impeach the president.
The planning, there's a plan for an impeachment.
They have been trying, they have been collecting money for almost 1.5 years. One of the corruption man, we called him with Murathe. I tell the truth. We called him in Murathe's house and he admitted. I don't tell lies. Oh, let it go. Leave me alone. He admitted that he was collecting money. To remove President Uhuru Kenyatta. He said it. I've never been to Murathe's house. It was the first day I was there. And I've never gone back there. But this gentleman admitted. So all these things you see in the newspaper is not nothing. There are people with very filthy schemes. They want to embarrass the head of state. My role as an editor, I came in. At my age, I have nothing much to offer other than guidance and wisdom. The wisdom at the moment on the judiciary, Your Excellency, sit with the Chief Justice. Kama aweze kazi, there's 1 year left before he turns 70, aende like Mutunga. Awapatie watu nafasi hapa kujekua. Is it what? My Swahili is getting lost. Kujakua, isn't it? To select. Kuchagua. Wachague Chief Justice mupya. Huyu hawezi. Wala ya Mungu. Hata kama unampatia 200 billion, hawezi to manage that court. Hawezi. Jameni, hawezi. Mimi bado sema mwizi. Mimi bado sema anaiba kitu. Lakini hana namna ya kutengeleza kotini. Hajui kichwa na miguu na tumbo ya kotini. Kiswahili yangu ya Tanzania, mama, nilikuwa masasani makati ya 78 na 79. Lakini wa Kenya nataka kuambia wa ndugu zangu, huyu Chief Justice ajui kotini nini inafanyika huko, nini inaendelea huko. Ajui, ataki kujua. What things are happening in this country is as if everything is pulling on its own direction. When you come to BBI, it is bullying. In fact, yes. When I was on the plane, yes, I thought about something. Let me tell you people. Let me tell you, and take it from me. BBI is not a political process. Whether you are in Tanga, whether you are in Kiweleke, or whatever you call it, it is not. And at the moment, Your Excellency, and I plead, I know this step will reach you, I plead with you. I am the one who talked about redemption strategy. I was the one called names on this television for over 4 to 6 years after the ICC collapsed. I said Kenya needs a redemption strategy. Walai ya Mungu, mnaenda different direction. Mnaharibu nchi. The moment you hijack this thing into a political process, any conflict resolution expert like me, I wash my dust, take off my shirt, go and swim in Indian Ocean. Because you have destroyed this country. This is a healing process. And I don't know why Ambassador Kimani is a conflict resolution doctorate man holder. Why are you not asserting authority here? Why are people hijacking the process into politics? Oh, we shall be Nakuru. Oh, we are holding this. Oh, we are holding another. Go move together. Heal this country. Heal this country. Heal it. BBI is one. Reconciliation. BBI is 2. Accountability. BBI is 3. Truth telling. BBI is 4. Restitution. BBI is 5. Reparations. BBI is 6. Healing. Wandugu zangu wa Kenya, healing. If you don't do those 5 and you are going there to say we are also holding ours, what is yours? You are about to do a political process, not a healing process. And therefore, at the end of the day, Miriam, we come back to the same direction where we started. Let these rallies all finish. We shall come back at the same direction where there are 2 polarized components. One led by Ruto's group and another one led by his Raila's group. This is where we are heading. If we don't come in, if experts like us don't speak out Unfortunately, the television station is in Kenya, many ones are bringing people who claim to have reached classrooms, but they reached outside the windows. They saw the windows and they claim to be experts. I saw some of them meeting this morning. This is a straight talk. And they are what too. I saw some people have worn suits and they have gone to TV that they went to school. Which school? Then they say that to impress their girlfriends and their wives at home that they are also talking on TV. Material, Anna. And television stations are calling them every morning. Wanaenda kununua hizi masuti za Turkey shirts and the coats. Tununue hiyo. Unaonesha watu kwa TV. No. Enough is enough. Let's be honest. Because if we don't speak about it. Did you know that the people had kept quiet and Ocampo was about to tell all Kenyan men to lie down? And I don't want to say what I want to say. If I was in a drinking spree, I would say it.
We are not in a drinking spree.
But this is not a drinking, this is an organized system. But he was going to do that. Ocampo was like a hero coming here to steal our women in Mazoe farm. Ocampo had threatened everybody. So here, Miriam, don't blame me. Let them blame me. Let them call me names. Call these Ugandan names. Call me. I am hippo. I am what? I am fat. I am what? Call me. But one day, you remember my words. Walai, nyenye muanze namna hivyo. Muende namna hivyo. Muanze kupigana. Mnasema group hii tutakuwa na group hii ingine tutakuwa hivi. It is not a political process. It is a healing process. You want to heal the nation, not to politicize the nation. You have a leader of majority called Murkomen, pretending to be talking English, zero English. Degrees were bought in America. How can a doctor of law operate? You are a leader of majority and you are scheming against the same government and you call him a leader of majority. Why did they put these children to lead institutions of this nature? These are children. Hii watoto haki ya Mungu. How can you go and defend theft? A man who came out, while this guy came out and told the world he has buildings, he bought them. I was in the bank trying to draw 25,000 shillings. The bank manager told me this is the last draw here because the owner of the building is turning it into a hotel. Then I said, Walai, what? Who is the owner? He said, as we were talking, Waititu arrives in the bank manager's office on Koinange Street. I said, with the people, they were waiting downstairs to put scaffolding to repair the building. Why can the government move in? Seize the building. Seize it. Because if you don't seize it, we might not get the money. Kiambu people. And at the end of the day, you see, have you seen the drama? The people in Kiambu who steal most are the one who hate Uhuru Kenyatta most. There is this other one who looks like a madman. He's not. Why don't they check this boy here? Who bought witnesses for 2,000 shillings? The witnesses are haunting him. Moses Kuria is being haunted by witnesses. Moses Kuria You are being haunted by witnesses that you bought. Hey, they might have gone to the grave. Moses Kuria, 2,000 shillings. Now he's everywhere. Hey, makama ya raisi. Hey. Whoa. That Moses Kuria. This is a man I respected. I thought. And then they now, after stealing in Kiambu, they hate the man who is also born in Kiambu. They embarrassed the same president. His constituency. How can you be a leader of the constituency where your president comes from and you are insulting the president every day, every funeral? In fact, they are the people who pray that the people die so that there is a funeral. Do you know that there are people here who pray? We used to have people like that in London. In 1987, 89, Ugandans were dying of HIV positive. Very many of them. So we had a group that had specialized in arriving. Who this weekend who has died? Cars, pack the beer, crates kumi, kapo. Oh, whose house today? Who has come today? Who has been deported? This was happening in London. With the issue of quick transport, communication is a rumor mongering was plenty until the Bazungu thought, are these the animals we brought here? So there are people in this country who are praying that the people should die. Then we go for funeral. Wear suits and then started lambasting Uhuru Kenyatta. Piga. I am writing the legacy. That is mine. The legacy. I don't need to be authorized. Hallelujah. I don't need to be authorized to write a legacy. Someone in Uganda has written Jonjo's legacy. Do you need to be authorized? If you have gone before 14 professors, do I need permission to write a legacy? Even if the president does not give me permission to write the legacy trend or the legacy, I write a book. What I've seen of a good person. So I have a right to defend his legacy. Not because he gives me the money to defend. I defend facts. I have seen the version of Pan-Africanism. Hallelujah. It is here. There is a passion of Pan-Africanism. You are not going to change me. Yes, you are not. You can now do whatever you want to do, but you not change me from defending President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. I wrote my piece yesterday. Go and read Matsa leaks. You will see my position. I don't suffer from any disorder. I suffer from one order called truth. In a Niuma, truth always. So Miriam, there we are. Waititu is now in court trying to stop Mr. Njoro from swearing as we speak now. And the judge is going to look at Waititu to sympathize with him with the building. This is my building. And my building, my wife, I don't have a wife.
That's true.
I don't have a daughter.
That's a couple.
I don't have a daughter. Me, look at me. I have 5 daughters and 3 men. They are all grown up. But if we were caught, we have stolen. I will not say my daughter, we did not steal together. I will say my daughter, let's die together. How can you refuse your own wife because you want to save a job? Which job? Is it, were you created to be a governor? Were you created to be a governor? No. There are other jobs to do in this country. If I were Waititu, I would concentrate and win my case, clear myself, and go and do farming quietly.
And Doctor, now that he has been impeached, we don't know what will go on in the court, if at all he's gone there to challenge that. But should the court uphold the impeachment that happened yesterday in the Senate? Should now the DPP and other anti-corruption bodies come in and now have a formal case in court to try him over the same?
The case is already in court. He has been impeached, he is thrown out. Okay. Therefore, he was impeached for criminality. And that criminality is the responsibility of the state to correct criminality. Therefore, the state, even if you get a stick and beat your wife, then your wife goes to court to withdraw the case, and you have beaten this wife with a big scar, the state can refuse and still prosecute you. Even if you sleep in your bedroom and say, darling, baby, oh baby, I was a bit upset, upset. Ugandan men say, I was a bit upset, mama, help me. Remove that case. Then you remove. The state can say, no, we are rearresting and recharging him for public disorderly, for stealing the state money. The state must recapture the money, must retrieve the money from Waititu. The money that was lost must be retrieved back to the state. Therefore, what the MCAs in Kiambu have done, overwhelmingly, except one, majority, they said, we don't want this guy. Let him go. So if he's caught, now he's free to be eaten. He can be eaten by anybody whom he has been threatening. Someone can eat him in the sense, file another case, I need my money you took the other time. I need my property. I need this. I need that. Aki ya Mungu. He's in very bad shape. But it teaches a lesson that don't touch the money. Don't touch the money. President Uhuru Kenyatta, thank you. Maraga, pull up your socks. Pull up. I can't talk about Mwiru because Mwiru is a criminal who should be in the bars. In bars. First of all, she dealt with a terrorist organization that has been banned by the British government not to bank any single pound in the British government, in the British bank. She borrowed the money from them. Uganda government has isolated that group, that company. She borrowed the money from them. What has she got with them? Kama na step huko Ulaya tunashika pop for terrorism. Ndio juzi walimuima visa. They refused. Wacha tutoboe wananchi wajue. Mtu anakaa hapa anasema Deputy Chief Justice, una visa? Hata kama kosi inakuwa London, huwezi kupatiwa. The only place she can go is in New York. If there is a court in the United Nations, is in New York. Fly and eat and dance around there. Hakuna pale anaenda. Msiambie watu ya urongo. Let her try and go to the American embassy to try if she can get even half a visa. Thank you very much, viewers. The court, the corrupt court in Kenya of Kenya. Ask questions, Miriam.
You've answered everything.
I see. Okay, thank you very much.
You've answered everything, all the queries we've been having since you...
Marama, Mr. In summary, Mr. Maraga has 1 year to go. Pack and ship. Don't even ask for more money. Maybe you're asking again to global it. Some other people to global it. We talk the truth. Let it take me to, let them kill me. But I'll talk the truth. This man came to Murathi's house and told us they were collecting money. We couldn't believe it. That all corrupt people were collecting money. I was listening. I have never gone to Butapika or Madare. It's not a lie. He is here. And the Murathi is here. Hey, am I telling a lie? Because they wanted to embarrass the President Uhuru Kenyatta because he is fighting corruption. And you don't want us friends of Uhuru Kenyatta to speak. You want you yourselves only to speak. Eh? One man have also made all your Tanga Tanga group to dance. They dance disco. One man, you dance disco on Facebook. Let's dance hallelujah disco. We bring one man, no bigger. What? You write like this, they come to insult you, but I am at 1 point. My points are going like this. Everybody, I hammered about Waitito. Isn't he gone? I hammered about Songo. Isn't he gone? I hammered Emerald, Cameron, loading. Emerald, Cameron, loading. He is loading. People sit in a hotel and divide the money, loading. Soon. Ulisikia Shabeshi alisema nini? Soon. 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 The wind is, tsunami starts by rounding, and then it picks speed. It is coming. Kaa chonjo na jacket. Once they take you down, man, you don't come back. Tsunami. Emerald, Kemerol. I want to ask you one thing to Kenyans. Why is it that the Murkomen is mentioned in everything on NYS? NYS 1, it was the Murkomen. Oh, I got money for consultants, hallelujah. NYS 2, Murkomen again. Can that be a leader of majority? Can that be a leader of majority? A leader of majority who is supposed to oversight the governors, encourages the governors to steal, encourages governors. He wanted the Senate to have a committee so that they can have 12 people and pay them. It cannot be a leader of majority. Kenyans, where are we heading? Where are we heading? Where is the country heading? People come to the Kenya thinking this one, they have even run away from the real theft in Nigeria. Let me make you laugh. Nigerians come to Kenya thinking they have run away from real theft of the 6.1 feet tall guy thief. Mwizi na bibi yake wanaiba. Buhari and the wife have stolen the entire Nigeria. The wife is even looking to marry a second man because of lack of functionalities. Yeah. That's Wakamoto. So Buhari has fleeced the entire Nigeria. The Nigerians running away from Nigeria to come to Kenya. They landed into the fleecing empire. Are we not ashamed?
And the report, the Transparency International report, placed Nigeria at number 158 out of the 180 countries of the most corrupt countries in the world.
In the world?
And Nigeria came out and they're not very happy with that report, and they're saying Transparency International is not very fair and the perception index might not be very right, because they've been doing, according to Nigeria, they've been doing well in terms of fighting corruption.
about 14 names. President Trump read 14 names. Number 1 on the list of the 14 names was who? Was Madame Buhari. Mrs. Buhari has $2.5 billion which can service Burundi roads, all the roads in Burundi. 2.5. It is making interest in a bank, Citibank in New York. Each day it makes $250 million. 200 on interest. She has it there. Look at that. Another president in Africa called Kabila. Kabila said DRC has no $2.8 billion to run an election. Miriam, surely DRC Congo did not have money to run election. When Kabila's sister ferries gold and the diamonds, very beautiful woman though, but you know God also knows these beautiful ones have also problems. You know, she ferries gold every day. DRC Congo is one country with airfields and airports which are not on Google. You can land anywhere and live without the radar in Kinshasa seeing you. The only radar that can pick you is when you are approaching Uganda. Then Uganda radar system says, there's a Casimiro plane coming. So what they do? Okay, bring it down. So, have you seen how gold disappears? Bring it down anyway. You see, when we see a plane of this nature, we bring it down and make sure that we check it and make it, you know, for us we are well conversant with this type of things. Don't worry, we sort it down. You know, bring it down. Mzee said, bring it down. Wanaleta ndege kini. Woo! What is inside? Colored. What is inside? Colored. You see, we saw some bags of things. They were all scattered around it. And what we did not want, we needed the officials from Kampala to come and verify. You know, verification is very important. Verification. One good thing about the Uganda UPDF and the Uganda, they are all. Do you know that our soldiers, most of them are HS Senior 5?
What does that mean? Senior 5.
SS 6, Senior 6, A level.
Okay.
They are soldiers in Uganda with PhDs. They are still lieutenants. They are colonels. They are captains. They are corporals. They have gone to school. They have utilized Makerere University. And you see, for us,
the Makerere University with the new leadership.
Don't go there.
Leadership Institute.
Oh.
All right.
You see, this is it. This is the situation. So when the planes arrive, we take them on and we tell them to come down. And then we have to call our boss. Our boss says, our law, ours is to impound. And they impound you. So the boss says, come for verification. Then Kabila says, there is no money to run an election. Surely in Africa. I believe you have talked about Sudan.
Yes, we have. And
South Sudan.
We have talked about South Sudan, and I talked about it in length. And let me just read you something here about South Sudan. And Mr. Tibor Nagy, the U.S. Assistant Secretary of State for African Affairs, came out and said the international community is sick and tired and fed up with providing the government services that the government of South Sudan should be providing for the people of South Sudan. So they're sick and tired.
The ambassador has not returned.
Maybe he shall come back after 22nd of February, after they sign the peace deal for the unity government.
There is a delay. News just reaching us is that there is a delay in coronation of the governor of Kiambu.
Mr. James Nyoro.
Yes.
What, the court?
The court. I told you. I've just predicted here the judge is going to. There's a delay.
But I saw a tweet yesterday by Murkomen, and said they shall go to court to.
They are there.
Okay, and the court has allowed that.
Yeah, they are there. They run the court. They run everywhere. I don't know who gave Murkomen to become the leader of majority. We were blind at that time. Now we can see. It is the earlier President Uhuru Kenyatta tackles that parliament to have something tangible coming out, the better. Me, I've told you, Kuria is being haunted by those witnesses he bought. Shilingi 2,000. Some of them have perished. They are not here. So they are haunting the guy up. And by the way, he said they haunt him. You remember?
We should pray for him.
Yes. So he has a problem. I used to meet him in a place. Nowadays, I've dodged that place completely. Because what do I sit with such a man?
He runs around in choppers, first of all. Yeah, and unless you're having one and then you meet.
You know that, you know, Miriam, there is some thuggery here. Very high rate of thuggery. There was a time a helicopter did pictures. And Moses Kuria came to say it is his helicopter. Now we know who bought the helicopter. You remember? And he said, he told the Citizen TV that now he has also a helicopter. People steal money here jokingly, and it goes. Look at the money for Emerald and the Kemerol Dam. Those guys in Erongoya Marakwet will never have anything to change their lives. And the people told us it is a money guarantee. Where is the guarantee? Toa guarantee! Toa! Onesha president guarantee. Hakuna. Viewers, thank you very much. This is Punchline Africa Television, all the way from the Republic of Kenya in Nairobi. We are back. The man is here. This afternoon at 4 p.m., the guy wants to bring you the breaking news. Editor's memo. I want you to brainstorm with me in the editor's memo. I've been talking for some time. I want to change the format. I will be open for telephone conversation. The phone is here. The number is here. The editor's memo at 4. You call to ask anything on African politics, on conflicts, on economy, on democracy. Open session with the editor. The moving dictionary of political science is here. At 4 p.m., the phone will be wide open like this. Kuja, piga simu hapa. Anybody, don't ask me about the personal life of my wife or children or of my girlfriend or which I don't have. I've only one wife. Yes.
All right, so 4 p.m. make a date with the editor. And the number will be on your screen. And you. Any
question is on Africa, Miriam. On Africa, politics, social, economy, democracy, elections. 4 p.m. open session with the editor. Ask your questions.
It's going to be an exciting show.
Yes.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yes, don't ask me questions. We shall switch off your line. If you ask me about how Buhari is killing people.
You're welcoming them and then you're threatening them.
No, you switch off because I've given you the format. We have a problem.
Anything to do with
and don't make a long speech. Just ask your question or type it here or chat with us.
No abusive language, no personal queries, and then,
Even personal queries. What else do I have? I'm 64 years.
No personal
At 65, I'm going. I've made my life. My children have grown.
You're going?
No, of course I will go. My children have grown. So will you return them? Can you return them to the wombs?
Okay, that's
That's
a very stretched.
It's not, no. You will not
answer.
You will not turn them to the wombs. They are also looking after other people. Yes. They are playing a part in the community, in the international community. What else is needed on planet Earth? Wajama. Yes.
Okay, so we see you at 4. He sees you, the editor. We'll see you at 4. Please be ready with your questions, good ones.
Good questions.
Yes.
The editor's memo. Open forum with the editor.
Open society.
No, don't say open society. Miriam, I don't know whether Miriam wants to become the Open Society Foundation. Usinilete. Yo kitu sitaki. Uyo George Soros is overthrowing the government.
Open forum now.
Have you seen what Kemisa is doing in South Africa?
He declared that this year is going to be a protesting year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As if he has even got the voice to protest.
He has the money to protest.
With the money, yeah.
And George Soros is building a leadership and democracy academy in Zimbabwe and his funding is with $1 billion US. So the money will help the economy of Zimbabwe. Maybe the price will be too much to pay that.
We shall cancel the license.
Right.
Anybody in Zimbabwe who has seen where this George Soros is building an academy in Zimbabwe, please notify us immediately. Maybe the authorities haven't known it is theirs. I will notify them in a few minutes as soon as I leave here.
Mnangagwa needs the money.
Where?
From anywhere he can get it.
They build an academy in Zimbabwe. He will be on the streets of Johannesburg.
For democracy and good governance.
Where?
There.
Why doesn't he build it in Kenya?
No, he needs it there.
What? Hey. Baba.
We'll see you at 4.